it's Chess from Chess's Book Nook, and today I really want to talk to you about a book that I just finished and absolutely loved, and that is A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. This book left me reeling. I started this last night when I got into bed, and I ended up reading it in one sitting. I just could not put it down. It's my favourite of Ishiguro's works so far. I should say at this point that I've currently read Clara and the Sun, The Remains of the Day, and Never Let Me Go. And then this is the fourth book I read by him. Just before we get into this, I will give you as a little side note that I'm having a little bit of a flare-up day with my conditions today, so I have a lot of brain fog. I didn't want it to stop me from doing the video. In a way, I thought it goes pretty well with the theme of this book, because this book is very hazy and very foggy, which is just on my brain today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So who is Ishiguro? For those who might not know, Ishiguro is a Nobel Prize winning author. He was originally born in Japan, and then he moved to the UK when he was 5 years old. His books tend to explore themes of guilt, memory, regret. They tend to have some unreliable narrators, and at least the ones I've read so far tend to be very character driven. His writing style is very restrained. It's emotionally complex, but it almost holds the reader at a little bit of a distance intentionally. And I think I've never come across someone else who writes like this and who can make me feel like that while simultaneously holding me at such a distance. I think that is such a skill, and it's so obvious why he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Genre-wise, this is best described as literary fiction, although there are psychological elements to this and also a sense of mystery, and the way it's written is just so haunting that it could almost feel like a ghost story in a way. It could even be described as historical fiction because of the setting that it's in. Plot-wise, A Pale View of Hills follows our unreliable narrator Etsuko as she reflects on her time in post-war Japan. She is thinking about her friendship with a woman named Sachiko and her daughter Mariko. It isn't a spoiler to say this because it's on the blurb that Etsuko's daughter Kiko has unfortunately just committed suicide, and that is what is causing her to reflect on all of these memories. The thing is that from the very start of this book, we get the sense that everything is just not as it seems. Etsuko tells us that her memory is fallible, as all of our memories are, and to some extent, is it even fair to call her an unreliable narrator when we are all unreliable narrators of our own lives to an extent? We can't remember everything exactly as it happened, and sometimes we deceive ourselves, we put ourselves in better lights. So to an extent, we're all a little bit like Etsuko. But I would say that this is unsettling in the best way. Like I say, it does feel almost like it's like a ghost story. There was a time, honestly, at the beginning where I was even wondering if it was going to turn into that, even though I was pretty sure that it wasn't. It was just so eerie, it's so haunting, and the effect is so subtle, and it has that typical Ishiguro restraint to it, and it's just so compelling as well, the mystery that comes in, and you're thinking, what happened? What led to these events? What's so important with this friendship? Why are the characters speaking to each other like this? Because the thing is, the dialogue in this, when Etsuko and Sachiko are speaking to one another, in a way, it doesn't feel like what people would say to each other. And this isn't a critique of Ishiguro's writing. This is a positive, because it's intentional, and I think it's showing that her memory is fallible, and it's everything that the characters don't say, and that's what's important. And as you're reading it, it just feels off kilter. I was absolutely gripped. Even though this is in no way a thriller, this is in no way a mystery book, I mean, like I say, slightly, you just want to know what happens and what led to this point. So I just could not put this down. The ending left me reeling. I have never seen a twist done in such a subtle way. A twist that is so subtle that you could miss it. And a twist that doesn't explain itself. And suddenly you're left wondering about everything you've read. What was real? What was really going on? You want to go back to the beginning so you can read it again and put together the pieces and the clues that Ishiguro has left throughout this novel. The way that this is written, the symbolism is so rich, and it just comes together in the end. It just packs such a punch with that, and yet that, like a subtle punch. How can you have a subtle punch? But that is what he does. It is this subtle, restrained gut punch. And I read the last few pages of this just over and over. Just amazing writing. I think it's really important that Ishiguro completely trusts his reader. He trusts us to have the intelligence to pick out all of the symbolism, to pick out the subtlety, to be able to work out for ourselves what's going on, to interpret it in a way that means something to us. And the ambiguity in this is so intentionally done. I find that ambiguity can be really annoying when it's done badly. And I have read books that do it badly, books where I am confident that the only reason it's ambiguous is because the author has no answer. They wanted to write that plot, they wanted to write that book, but they couldn't figure out how to make it make sense. So they didn't. And this is not that. This is so intentional and so thought-provoking. And I've never read ambiguity done so well. If you're someone who loves books that haunt you quietly, that stay with you, that linger, that you will be thinking about after you have read them for a long time, then I highly recommend that you read this. Alright, I really want to dive deeply into this now and to go into the themes. I want to go into what happened at the end and put my theories about that across and see what you think and what your theories are if you've read it too. So this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't read this book, please go and read it. Don't watch all the spoilers first. Go and read it. Come back. Tell me what you think. You got it? Yeah? Okay, you're still here. I'm assuming you've read this too, so let's get in to the spoiler section of this video. And I think one of the biggest questions to discuss is, are Etsuko and Sashiko actually the same person? When I got to the end and that pronoun switched to we, I audibly gasped. I hadn't considered it as a possibility, and when she switched to saying to Mariko, we could return, you know, we can return if we don't like it there, I was so shocked, and I thought, oh my goodness, are they the same person? Is she just projecting her memories onto Sashiko? Was she truly someone she was friends with, or was it her all along, and perhaps she felt the guilt of not being a good enough mum to her daughter, the guilt of not being able to prevent her daughter's suicide, especially, I mean, at the end when she had the rope and she told Mariko not to be afraid of her, but Mariko clearly was, and that harks back to a scene earlier on in the book where Mariko was afraid of her then as well, and we didn't know why. Like, why is Mariko afraid? And I thought, is this just reflecting the guilt that she has? Does she feel like she's responsible for her daughter's death? Is she partly responsible? Because if her memories were actually the ones that she was placing on Sashiko, then Sashiko wasn't a good mother to Mariko, and she admits that at the end, and the whole way through she's constantly saying, I'm doing this for Mariko, this is for my daughter, she comes first, but we can see that isn't true, and we can see in her actions that isn't true. she throws her aside all the time to do what she wants, and when Mariko goes missing, she is so casual about it, and Etsuko was saying we should go and look for her, and the mom's response is just, oh, thank you, you're so kind, we don't need to do that, she'll be fine, Mariko will be fine. And as a mum myself, I was thinking, what? Go and look for your daughter is missing, your daughter's out, it's dark. And then even when those the challenges were happening, she was not worried about her own daughter's life being taken. And then you contrast with this, if she actually is Etsuko, or at least if Etsuko is transposing her memories onto Sashiko, then of course the horrible irony is that her daughter actually did die. I mean, she took her own life, and rather than someone else taking it, but I think the guilt she feels is because she feels like she's part of the reason perhaps that drove her to it. And if she did treat her in the way that Sashiko treated Mariko, then, you know, she might have a point, because she was very neglectful and she just seemed quite ambivalent, and yet she would insist how much she cared for her. And it wasn't until the end that she admitted that she wasn't a good mum. I mean, also, if she really was Sashiko, then perhaps she is the one who drowned Mariko's cats, which obviously is just a horrendous thing, and a horrendous thing to put your daughter through, who she, you know, Mariko adores those cats, and they're really all she has. You know, this is a little girl who's been left by herself all the time, she doesn't have any friends. You can tell she's very, she's taken some psychological damage from what she's been through. She's gone through the trauma of the war, she's got the trauma of the neglectful mother, and now her mother has, after promising her she could keep those kittens, has drowned the kittens. And I mean, I teared up, because animal abuse, I mean, it's horrible. It wasn't done graphically, and I did appreciate that. But I felt for Mariko so much during that scene. So if that was really our narrator who did that, like, it's a really vile act to have done. For me, I think there is quite a bit of evidence that the narrator and her friend Sashiko really are the same person, although I also think that perhaps she could just be projecting the memories onto her, and perhaps she can't separate them from her and herself. Perhaps she's just drawing the parallels between what sort of mothers they were, and how they both feel like they let their children down. But I do think there's quite a strong argument that they are actually just the same person. And I came across a quote by the author which says, "Memory is a very unreliable narrator. I'm interested in how we rewrite our past to protect ourselves. We all do this, though maybe not so dramatically." So Ishiguro said this about this book, and the fact that he said maybe not quite so dramatically made me think, yeah, I think she has gone to the point where she's kind of disassociated and she's created this character. This character has taken on some of the worst things she feels she's done to protect her from feeling like such a bad person. That's one view. However, another view is that she could just be reflecting on a real friendship from the past, and maybe Sashiko really did do all those things, and Mariko had to go through all of that trauma, and perhaps she is just simply drawing parallels between her own parenting, between the way that both of their daughters were treated. Perhaps she's wondering what happened to Mariko as she reflects on the loss of her own daughter. And there is no right answer. Ishiguro is not going to give us an answer. He's not going to tell us. I'm someone who likes things to be pretty black and white normally, but the shades of grey in this and the not knowing is completely compelling. I mean, I could change my opinion on it. I think I could read this again and come up with a different solution, and I could probably do that again and again, and I think each time I read this I will see more layers of symbolism, something else that I've missed, and that's the beauty of it. Please do let me know, do you think they are different people? Has she projected herself onto it? Were they actually friends? Did these things actually happen? Please let me know. The symbolism of the rope made me think a lot, and the fact that Mariko was just scared of her. It did make me think if she'd tried to harm her at some point, if she'd tried to harm Kiko, I mean, and if she regretted that, just because of the fear that the Mariko had and how the rope kept coming up and it came up at the end and she had to reassure her, like, I'm not going to hurt you. Why would you need to do that if you've never tried to hurt someone before, and you know, in such a brutal way? Or was it that she was just remembering this and adding the rope in because it's all she can think about now, because she is grieving and she's devastated? And I didn't want to look up any other opinions before I did this, because I just wanted to make sure I could get my own thoughts across, but I couldn't help having a little Google, and one thing I saw straight away was someone who said that she thought that Atsuko could even be the murderer. Now, I don't think that that's the case, but I can certainly see why this reader would why they would think that, and it did cross my mind when she had the rope at the end and just the fear that Mariko had, and I thought I do think that she perhaps tried to hurt the daughter before. So for a moment something like that crossed my mind, but I didn't think that was actually the case. I think it is more from the perspective of the guilt that she fears and just the symbolism of the rope, and I don't even know if the rope was actually there. I don't think it was, but I can see the argument for it, and if you think that, then please let me know, because I'm just fascinated by what you think of this as well. The title of the novel as well, A Pale View of Hills, I just think that is brilliant. A pale view seems to reflect her. It's like a metaphor for Etsuko's fragmented, pale, and just hazy memories. It's like her past it's so blurred and it's so uncertain, and we're uncertain exactly what happened as the reader, and it's as if Etsuko is looking through the fog and through the haze, and she's trying to discern what's real just as we're trying to discern what's real. She tries to separate herself from that pain. She tries to disassociate from it, and in my view she tries to do this by becoming Sashiko, by putting her memories just onto something else, onto someone else, because they are so painful and she sees them from such a distance. And I think again that the view, because the view is a distance, you know, normally when you're looking at a view you're quite far away, and I think it's the distance that she puts between herself and those memories, the distance she creates by placing them onto someone else, and it's also the distance that we're kept at as a reader. You know, the other thing I think is that a view, especially like a beautiful view, it's really hard to capture. I live on my house backs onto some fields and like beautiful English countryside, and I can tell you about it and I could take a photo of it, but I can't really capture that view. I can't really capture it. I can't capture the way it makes me feel, and that's just like, it's just like with memories, you can't really capture them. You can't, trying to explain them to someone else, trying to relive them in your mind, it just isn't the same as being there. And somehow the title alone manages to convey just so much. Okay, that's the end of the spoiler section. I mean, to sum up, I would say that this is kind of quietly devastating, just like the other works I've read by this author. This book left me with so many questions, and that's what makes it so powerful, and I don't feel like I need to have all the answers, which is so unlike me. And I will definitely reread this, and I will know that I will think, oh, I missed that before, and I know that I'll probably hear your theories and oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that. So if you've read this, I would love to hear your thoughts and your theories. Please do leave a comment, tell me what you thought, and also tell me which one you think I should read next. Thank you so much for watching. and I hope that you stick around, and I'll see you soon. I really do want to get into... A Pale View of Hills follows Etsuko, who is reflecting in her time... Sorry, I keep being interrupted by a cat. My cat, not just any random cat. The other thing I wanted to discuss was the title of the book, which I think is just brilliant. Oh. I'm sorry, I had to pause because my cat is meowing a lot. He's very upset about the contents of the book. Are you? Oh, yes. That would be very upsetting. Yes. I don't think you should read it. I don't think you should read it. I also loved the